We are going to take a little quick break before Tellis gets back on the stand. Gives us an opportunity to bring in our guest for this hour.
Because they don't want the jury to see him walking to the stand and visualizing him with a really big hat.
Yeah, and that outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good move, you know.
It's smart, sure.
Yeah.
Got to do something here.
Yeah.
I mean, after Tellis
don't know if it's
taking
going to
a
work,
stand.
but it's a good move. Don't let the jury see you walking when there's video of someone walking before the murders and after.
That is you.
Likely.
National Trial Attorney Mike Jaafar is going to join us now. Michael, what's your take on this whole entire situation? You know, one of the things that, when you're, for instance, inside a courtroom and, you're practicing and then you have the judge up there, sometimes you just have to wonder, one of the things you have to be in the courtroom is, efficient. And you hear Tellis on the stand, and the judge is in charge of making sure that he or she runs an efficient courtroom, and you have Tellis just going on and on and on and on. I don't know. Michael, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the judge is just looking forward to his appeal when he gets convicted. Ineffective assistance of counsel, every other, cockamamie excuse he's going to have. This whole thing is a circus. I feel bad for the defense attorney. See, defendants like this are not unfamiliar to anybody who's done public defender work. This is not a public defender situation, but they're not unfamiliar to you. It's a defendant who wants to take control of their case. But in hindsight, the craziness kind of makes sense, and I'll tell you why. It's complete craziness, by the way, because the forensic there's like a treasure map trail. I said that in the 4th grade, my teacher would draw a treasure map, and she would write these dots, and and then she'd go all the way to the treasure, and X marks the spot. That's exactly how the evidence looks like against Robert Tellis. It's like a treasure map for a 4th grader. Right? He did it. I mean, the whole allegedly veneer has worn off for me. We still have to say allegedly, but I don't see any chance that this gentleman is not going to get convicted. And it's very sad. It's not just sad for Gehrman and his family, but it's sad also for Robert Tellis's family, right? He's got kids, he's got a beautiful family. This is a sociopath. By the way, Tellis's behavior gives the definition of premeditated murder a whole new definition. There is premeditation to his premeditation. Everything he did was very premeditated-y. That's not a word, but I created it. It's very premeditated. He premeditated the premeditation. He made some good points in his defense, but it almost doesn't matter. Hey, I checked into Planet Fitness at 12:09 and all these things. I see why he had to take the stand, because I think he knows this is a Hail Mary. I mean, the guy does have a brain, right? He did pass the bar, and he broke down in tears when the cop showed up at his house. I think he knows that he was caught, despite how hard he did to cover it up. But honestly, the craziness of him taking the stand, what else could he have done? There's nothing else. There's a massive vault of evidence against him before he took the stand. And by him taking the stand, maybe a crazy juror will believe one or two of his points. You really do just have to create reasonable doubt in the mind of one of the jurors. I'm not saying that there's any chance he's going to get acquitted, but it kind of makes somewhat sense in a nonsensical case.
Right. I mean, I have an idea what he could have done. He could have said to his family, I did this, I'm very, very sorry, and taken the punishment, but not a lot of people do that. In this situation, they want to hold on to maybe their freedom if they can get it, but to Michael's point, they bring down so many people. The Gehrmans sit there in the courtroom every day. Matt Johnson says they're there. They don't talk publicly, but they're being forced to witness this charade by this defendant and then his family. Good gosh.
At any moment, defendant Robert Tellis returns to the stand for a 3rd day in this Nevada murder trial. He will give his testimony in narrative style without being asked questions. The former Las Vegas politician is accused in the stabbing death of Jeff Gehrman. Tellis claims that he was framed.
This morning, the prosecution brought in a retired detective out of order their goal was really to get this Apple Watch text evidence into the record. So that's the little delay. And then the defense asked for a break before they put Tellis up on the stand. It's gone on a little bit longer than we thought it would. So
that text was from his wife asking,
yes.
Where are you,
man?
Where are you?
I wonder if he's having second thoughts. Didn't seem, he was ready to jump back on.
Oh, yeah.
To the, you could tell
he wants to keep talking.
Yeah. Michael Jaafar, if you were representing him in this limited role, which they've worked out, would you be trying to dissuade him from getting back up there today? Because, or no, you're shaking your head. Your thoughts?
No. Yeah, no, this case is already lost. I would let him just let it hang out, right? Because it's done. Tellis didn't even have an attorney until the trial, right? And you can see why. His previous attorneys, we were not in the room, were probably taking advice from you earlier today. They probably had a time machine. They jumped forward, they watched this broadcast, and then they jumped back in time, and they told him what you just said, which is, dude, you got to focus on legacy at this point. Let's take a plea, let's take a deal, and then have an allocution and agree to this, because it's beyond, it's beyond reproach, right? The tragedy of this, Ted, is that look at everything that Tellis lost and had other people lose. If you just follow the money for a second, he had it all. He had a family, he had kids, he was healthy, his kids were healthy. He'd passed the bar, he was a lawyer, and he was a public official. And people in my profession know, if you're a lawyer and then you become the public administrator elected, even if you lose re-election, there's any number of law firms and opportunities that'll snatch you up and pay you a bunch of money, and you'll travel the world and you live the life that only people dream of living, right? But what did he do? He obviously had a hole in his soul, and that hole in his soul caused him to murder a person in the way that he murdered him, and literally laid breadcrumbs for everybody to follow him, and he did not even destroy the evidence against him. Why do I say that in relation to your question? Because that means he has to take the stand. That's just the type of person, that's the avatar of a Robert Tellis. It's a person who has it all, but is committed to destroying it all. And this testimony is the final piece in him destroying everything. And so if I was his attorney, I would know that. Again, these people are not unfamiliar to me or anyone who's ever done defense work. They're not unfamiliar. They're very, very, very familiar. I can't tell you how many defendants that we don't see on TV that even I've represented who said, there's a videotape evidence of me stealing this thing, but I want to take the stand and tell them I'm not a professional thief. Why would they think I'm a professional thief? Well, you're not being charged with being a professional thief. You're being charged with stealing this thing. Yeah, but I'm not a professional thief. I'm going to take the stand. If you don't like it, I'll find another attorney, right? So like people like Robert Tellis always do the same thing. They have it all, but they destroy it all. So he has to just destroy it in his own way. He has to continue destroying his case and destroying his legacy. He's committed to do that. He doesn't think he's doing that, or maybe he does. But that's why I say he has to take the stand. That's why Draskevich, in that interview, before they put on their defense, he said, we were only hired for the trial, and Robert Tellis has been consistent since day one. He wants to tell his story. That was a way of Draskevich telling future clients, hey, if I defend you, I'm not going to let you embarrass yourself unless you want to embarrass yourself. I had a client who wanted to embarrass himself. I'm not going to tell you his name, but if he listened to me, he wouldn't have done that. So yeah, he has to take the stand. He's completely committed to taking the stand, and for all we know, he's going to cry on the stand, but he's got to do it.
Michael, when a defendant, especially in a case like this, if he had not taken the stand, I mean, we see this a lot in trials. Obviously, the state has the burden, but there are some jurors that make an honest inference, even though they're told in jury instructions, even though they're told you cannot use it against the defendant, that he did not come up and testify. There are some that really feel that if he's being truthful, he should get up there and explain his story. The problem here is his story really isn't adding up.
He had to take the stand. He had no choice but to take the stand. It's not even a Hail Mary. It's even worse. If there's a Hail Mary from one football stadium to another football stadium, that's what it is. He had to take the stand, and all he has to do is, in his mind, is flip one juror. But getting on the stand, and wait till you see the cross-examination. It's going to be, this is going to be what it has to be. This is exactly what this trial had to be from day one. He had to take the stand. He took the stand. He's telling his story. And jurors, yeah, you're right, Kelly. I always tell, I've told on multiple occasions on this broadcast about other cases. She's got to take the stand. He's got to take the stand. Why? Because jurors are not robots. They're human beings, right? And so if you had a jury of robots, less people would have to take the stand, right? We saw Marcia Thompson, for example, take the stand. Had she not taken the stand, she would have been convicted. She took the stand. She cried. She was sincere. She was acquitted, right? People have to take the stand in certain cases with certain fact patterns. In this case, he had to take the stand. With the evidence against him, if he didn't take the stand, not only was motion for directed verdict by the prosecution doesn't exist, but I think they would have invented it for Robert Tellis if he didn't take the stand. They would have just said motion for directed verdict, and the judge, again, I know it's not possible, but that's how convincing the case against him was when the state rested had he not taken the stand. So he had to take the stand.
Absolutely. All right, we're still waiting for him to get back on the stand for this last leg of this incredibly long journey of Robert Tellis on the stand. Now he's going by Tejas, I guess. But we'll get a break. This is a live look inside the courtroom.
We do want to bring in National Trial Attorney Michael Jaafar just to talk to us about what we saw there on the stand from Tellis as we wait for him to get back up there on the stand. Emotional there, Michael.
Yeah, they seem like sort of crocodile tears for me. There's, you know, I mean, being a little emotional and crying on the stand is like the minimum bar for a guy in Tellis's position. I mean, again, this is, again, not a Hail Mary. This is a Hail Mary from one football stadium to another football stadium, which no human being has ever been able to pass a ball that far, but Robert Tellis is trying it. Again, I'm just struck by the sheer tragedy of this situation. I was trying to recall on the break a more tragic fall from grace for a person. I can't do it, right? I mean, the bar was so low. You had it all. You had a family. You had kids. Your kids were healthy. You're healthy. You were an attorney. You were fit. You were a public official administrator. You were elected into one of the highest posts in your state. And there was a number of law firms that were pining for you to after you lost the re-election, to bring you in and pay you a bucket of money. All you had to do was not premeditatedly murder a reporter. That's all you had to do. You wouldn't be on the stand today. You wouldn't have to pretend that you're crying. All you had to do was not commit premeditated murder of a reporter. How many of us have it all? And all we have to do is not commit premeditated murder of a reporter. I think one person in the last 100 years, Robert Tellis, is the only person who had it all. And all he had to do was not commit premeditated murder against a reporter, right? And he did it. He just, again, he has a hole. There's a hole in his soul. And that hole is on display in his narrative. When the cross-examination comes, it's going to be vicious, because I think he's opened up the door to everything, maybe even including the domestic violence past. Him, talking about the crying about his wife and the harm he has done to his family when the police came in, and him thinking that he put them in there. I think he's opened the door to pretty much everything that would hurt his case. So if he swayed any of the jurors or created any type of doubt in any of their minds, it's going to be shut down by the time the state of Nevada is done with this cross-examination. But again, I'm just struck by the human tragedy. This is Shakespeare on display. This is a Shakespearean tragedy, because Gehrman's family has to watch this and have to watch it for a second day. I'm struck by it.
Yeah, and technically the state has finished their cross, so they did that yesterday. Now it's on to the re-narrative, if you will.